Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television, and thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Before we shift gear, and Senator Sifuna, you had a point before we go to the report by JLAC. Yes, proceed, please. Yeah,
you can see that we are engaging in semantics here, whether it is a definition of a fund, whether it was intended to be a grant, whether it is interest. You know, we don't need to be clever with Kenyans. The people who voted for this government understood what the president currently meant when he said he was going to be giving them a grant. So let us not come up with Kizungu Mingi. He himself is the one who defined Kizungu Mingi, and this is what is exactly happening here. That goalposts are shifting, but you know, there is nothing wrong, even Governor Wamatangi, by admitting that, yes, this was the initial intention, and then we decided to change because of the following reasons. People will understand. But don't make it seem like we are, you know, we have lost our faculties, that we don't know what we had. We are making us doubt the things that we had straight from the horse's mouth. So I think the truth of the matter is Kenyans can see through this charade. They know that this is not what was promised. This fund is not going to be sustainable. There are legal problems with the foundations of the fund, the question of the appropriation of the resources, and the subliminal communication to the public that, in fact, these resources are not to be paid back. And lastly, if it was really intended for the, the law of the law, they were the ones at the bottom of the pyramid. You know, the first beneficiary of this fund was this company called Twiga Foods, a company that is capitalized in the billions of shillings. That is not a hustler, you know. So it tells you that there's always going to be changes and tweaks to these things. But
does it not have an impact on the people that the administration calls hustlers? I mean, in terms of employment, services.
So ask that to the Mamamboga at Marikiti that Governor Wamatangi was talking about. This promise was not made to companies like Twiga. I mean, it was made to them, the Mamamboga, the 500 shillings that he's talking about, the ones who were supposed to repay 500.
But Senator, there are, of course, two different spectrums here. Doesn't the company employ? Doesn't it provide service delivery? I mean, there are people who are dependent. And you said that even some of these people who are accessing the Hustler Fund are people who voted for you.
My brother, this is not a fund that is directed at people who can access credit through the normal means. A company that is capitalized in the billions of shillings is not a company that can be unable to go to a bank and obtain the resources. So why is a company that is capitalized in the billions of shillings competing with a Mamamboga for 500 shillings? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
We have different categories, isn't it?
Because but that's what I'm saying. The component that was launched yesterday was supposed to be for the 500 to the 50,000. But you have a company here that is getting 300 million shillings. How many hustlers would have benefited from that if you divided the 300 million by 500 shillings?
But Senator, to be clear again, because the company has management, but it doesn't gobble up that amount of money because it's so humongous. Does it not employ people? And they are not service delivery people, you know, who can depend on this. I'm talking from the perspective of the chain and the advantages you have that it bears on the people's lives.
The question to ask yourself is, who was this fund intended to benefit? The rationale was that there are people who are locked out of the kawaida credit market, that you cannot work as a hustler, somebody with mkokoteni at Marikiti, into Standard Chartered Bank of Moi Avenue and get money. But the CEO of Twiga Foods, surely, this is somebody who can go to Standard Chartered and get a facility. Okay. This fund was meant for the people that were being described by Governor Wamatangi. Okay. But if they are, I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, however, there are very different categorization of the same because the personal is the access between 500 and 50,000 Kenya shillings. Gentlemen, let's now sample the feedback on Twitter because we haven't been doing this conversation alone. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Remy Butia says, if the Hustler Fund is implemented equitably, it will create employment and help many Kenyans create wealth and get into the tax bracket. It can boost the circulation of money in different local economies within the country. LJ Sindani says Hustler Fund is just a modified Fuliza and digital loan. Your loan limit grows over time depending on repayment. Immediately you apply, 5% is cut to go towards savings, forced savings, he says. You are supposed to repay within 14 days. This is a recipe for great default. Agumba Steve says this Hustler Fund looks more of a pyramid scheme to get rid of other loans, but I want to assure you that with the nasty conditions and the less loan limits being given, we'll go from M-Shwari and other loans that do not carry threats. Anyway, why would my M-Pesa PIN be needed? Godi Barasawere says the Kenya Kwanza administration envisions an environment where people at the bottom of the pyramid are given an opportunity to survive. The Hustler Fund, he says, will act as a platform to aid small-scale traders and entrepreneurs to thrive. Edwin_Lalo says, Governor Kimani Wamatangi, good morning. I have heard you say the source of Hustler Fund is government budget. When did Parliament sit down to allocate the funds or even discuss supplementary budget for this specific fund? What's the source of this fund? Ken Korir says most Kenyans already have Fuliza loans. When they borrow from the Hustler funds, wouldn't Safaricom Fuliza not just have a field day of getting all loans repaid? Lumasia says the Hustler Fund is just Fuliza in high heels. And those are some of the feedback on the Twitter hashtag. Later, of course, we'll sample the other feedback in regards to the next topic, which is on the MPs who are set to seal the fate of 4 IEBC commissioners. And the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly is set to table the report today on the petitions filed against 4 IEBC commissioners. The Vice Chairperson, Juliana Cherera, Commissioners Justice Nyangaya, Irene Masit, and Francis Wanderi. This follows a petition filed by Dennis Nthumbi, the Republican Party, Godfrey Langat, and Ward Steve Gary, seeking the commissioners out of allegations of violation of the Constitution, gross misconduct and incompetence over the conduction of the elections of August 2022. Honorable Soro, you are a member of the community. Timely to have this discussion. Why do you think the 4 commissioners are sought after? And do you think the petitions filed before the committee that you are a member of has substantial evidence in regards to constitutional and gross misconduct, incompetence, as mentioned?
No, I don't think I should answer that. That do I think whether it holds any substance? Because my roles as a member of, my responsibility as a member of the JLAC committee is merely to investigate. And at this point, I wouldn't want to disclose what report we are in the process of writing. Although I see on paper that today, it will be tabled in the floor of the House. I am not aware that there is a report that will be tabled today because we are in the process of writing the report. Of course, if we're able to conclude today, it's fine, but it's a process. You see, every Kenyan has a right to petition Parliament at any given time on whatever matter, and especially on the removal of any commissioner, as provided for under Article 251, 251, I think, thereabout. So the petitions, of course, were brought before us. The respondents were served to respond. Of course, some of them played games and stuff like that. Some of them responded. And our responsibility, as provided for, again, understanding order number 234, is to investigate. And we've done our investigations. We're in the process of doing reports. It's a process. It's not a sole decision by myself or any. I mean, all the members are involved. So we will see the report. Kenyans will have an opportunity to see the report once it's tabled, when it is ready, whether the petitions had substantial grounds or not. It's too early for me. It's premature for me to disclose whether it has grounds, because I should be an impartial arbiter in this matter.
Okay, and you are also concerned about the delays, and you say, to quote you, the respondents are playing delaying tactics, and yet they know we have timelines. You want to tell them that they will not intimidate the committee. We will write the report as is. At some point, you are concerned about the appearance before the committee.
Yeah, those are sentiments made. I made those sentiments when we were in the process of hearing the petitions. And we had summoned the respondents, of course, to appear before us, having been served within time that is required. Because the standing orders provide that once we receive the petition, we hear and report back to the House within 14 days. So we were within that strict timeline to make sure that we hear and investigate. But what they decided to do is to play activism, some of them, not all, to play activism. You appear, you say you need more time to respond, you haven't seen the petition, you need evidence, you need this and this. At that point, I made such sentiments is when we were sitting and the council appeared before us, and all he was saying is, please give us up to 2 p.m., and that was 8. Then we gave them up to 2 p.m. Then he came at 2 p.m. and said, please give me up to 5 p.m. We haven't read the petition and stuff like that. So basic delay tactics. And as they were doing that, of course, they were also in court. You see, appearing before a committee with also a predetermined mind that we are possibly set against you is in itself wrong. Nobody sets us. We are within, you know, the law, working under Article 95, you know, without influence from any person. We don't take instruction from His Excellency the President. We are autonomous, independent, and not even William Samuel Ruto is the last person to give you instructions on what to do.
All right, we'll come to the place of independent institutions in this country because there seems to be a lackluster across board politically. Governor Kimani Wamatangi, we are 12 years since we promulgated Katiba 2010, and with it came one of the independent commissions, the IEBC, and there seems to be a perpetual continuity of the uncertainty over it because some are seeking the removal of the four. On the other hand, the opposition says that even before their term expires, although they are supposed to be leaving anyway when the year ends, that Chebukati and the other two commissioners, Boyamola, Abdigulio, ought to be leaving earlier. These divisions are continuous. How do you address them?
Abdikadir, first, let me, and sorry for taking you back, but there's something you left there hanging in there that's not good for Kenyans who view this program in the morning. On some of those questions on the Hustler Fund, I think it's
okay.
It's good
So briefly,
it's good to seal that question that was asked on is it another Fuliza fund? I would want to ask you one of these days, take time and please take Kenyans through the charges they pay for a simple loan on Fuliza of 500. You'll be shocked at the kind of monies that you pay per day. We try to have that debate here, and because that's a product for a certain company, we don't want to make it a discussion here that becomes like an expose, but please take time to look at how much it's exorbitant. So when you have this version, you can't even get anywhere near to compare it to Fuliza. And on that other question, on what is the source of the funds, I said it's government money. It's not from an individual. And then the follow-up question is, when did Parliament sit? And I think that was provoked by the comment by Senator Sifuna. Yet, Senator Sifuna knows that government budgets are passed in the month of June. And when a government comes in perpetuity, finds an already passed budget, it is within the law that if a government wishes, for example, to either appropriate within a vote, as long as it is within the same department, that you can do that within the existing already passed budget. And what the government needed just to have done is to see the budget that was passed, if that existed in a certain vote, meant for the same sector, if it is within trade, within whichever department, then they'll just appropriate that money and allocate it.
To be clear, then, will this be part of the allocation in the supplementary budget 2020?
Well, if need be, supposing it was to be expanded. And that is why you might find probably the information that advised to launching it in phases. Maybe the amount available right now could only be able to sustain that.
Thank you.
Supplementarily, then they can bring in the extra and fund the other costs.
To my question now.
To your question, I think we agree about one thing, and I've made this argument here many times, that we need not only to reform the IEBC, but the Act itself. So that when you have commissioners in IEBC, first, the protection that they get within the law, the Act itself, must be clearly defined. Number two, we also must change the roadmap as to how one becomes a commissioner, what it is expected of them. We also must advise within the law who are the players that are allowed to determine who will be a commissioner sitting in there. You know, one of the biggest problems that we've had is when people progress to become nominees of IEBC first, it's the politicians that play to decide that Abdikadir will be a candidate to be IEBC. Politicians are highly interested parties. And once I decide as a political supremo or a party leader that we are going to back Abdikadir to become a candidate, we know that we have already sent out a signal that the expectations we have of Abdikadir when he goes into IEBC. So here you have a panel of all the commissioners, all of them being products of that kind of process, all knowing that they have come to that position courtesy of politically interested parties.
Is that the problem, Governor?
And then let me finish. Just once somebody has sat in that office with that mindset, then comes, for example, election time. And that is why you find, for example, what happened to these four. You are there. You've been sponsored, so to say, in quotes, by certain parties. It's a contestation, this side, and your side seems to be wanting a certain position. So what do? And then you find you become inclined to do these kind of things. And when it becomes politically necessary, then you have this kind of people being shed off. The problem is, and the challenge is, to what expense and risk to the country? And this is where I say very clearly, number one, when commissioners go into that office, let the term of a commissioner be clearly defined. That you go into the office of a commissioner, your term is defined. It has to be protected within the law. And secondly, it would be highly unimaginative, in my view, to continue to allow commissioners, knowing the nature and the circumstances within which they work, to allow them go through cycles of elections continuously. If, for example, we nominated commissioners and give them that job within a political cycle, that once they have run through that election, then you'll have them dropping off. And then you have people who are, and I would use that word very reservedly, untainted. Untainted would mean that because of the graduation of that process, they have no baggage. And then you have a fresh team. But you see, what we've been doing indeed sometimes forces those commissioners to do some of the things that you see them doing.
Okay, Governor, just hang on, because before I come to the Senator, you pointed a very critical, important point. The process is what you talked about, which you said is political.
Yes.
But where is the independence of the office holder?
No, that's the problem. You know, you pronounce independence, but you don't give it. So because you see, the independence is only in the alphabet I. In the description of the commission, independent. But by dint of the process, the law, and the statute, they are not independent. My friend Abdikadir, I've said...
Is that imposed?
I've said...
Where's the personal
call me political party X.
Okay.
And then I say that I've lobbied within Parliament that we have a rule, a law that says that political parties will propose the names of the people who will become commissioners.
Okay.
And so when I say that Abdikadir is my proponent, then you go there, you become a candidate, and you become the commissioner. Then when I go to a contest, what are you expected to do?
Okay, just hang on. We'll come to that, because independence is very extensive and very expansive. Yes, Senator, I come to you. And your party has reservations, and by extension, the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party, about the proceedings as conducted by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. Why?
First of all, I want to say that I commiserate with my brother Osoro. He's in a very difficult position. Osoro is a member of the Law Society of Kenya. He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He took an oath, just like me, to always defend this constitution. You know, the question that you asked him, because conduct that constitutes gross misconduct, you know, that is the basis for removal of a commissioner, is a question of fact. If somebody has violated the constitution by their conduct, it's a question of fact. And that fact is, you know, revealed during the hearing of the petition itself. It does not reveal itself during the report writing stage, and Osoro knows it. So by now, he should be able to tell us, and the question maybe you should have asked him is, as a person who has sat through these hearings, have you seen conduct from these commissioners that meets the threshold of gross misconduct or violation of the Constitution? So that is what is supposed to be carried on into a report. But what that tells you is that it is all a charade. It is just something that is to rubber stamp a predetermined outcome. The president himself has expressed himself on this matter. He has already called these people rogue officials. He has already said that they put the nation in danger by their conduct. He has already said that they subverted the democratic will of the people. Now, these three things is what Osoro should be able to tell us, because unfortunately, when he is here as a majority whip, he is the one who represents government, and he also doubles up as a member of that committee. Mheshimiwa Osoro, tell us, in the mind of the president, what is this conduct that makes these 4 individuals rogue officials? You know, the reason why we are protesting, my brother, is because under Article 3 of this Constitution, all of us are enjoined to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Okay. We are not defending these 4 individuals. That is the distinction I want to make here. We are not defending the 4 individuals. We are defending the Constitution. It is the Constitution that provides and gives all of us certain protections, that in the event that I have conducted myself in a certain way, there is a procedure for my removal. That procedure is also cast in a certain perspective, that number 1, there are certain rights. The rights to fair hearing. Number 1 is that you need adequate time to prepare a defense. And also that you need sufficient details of the charges that are laid against you so that you are able to know what the case you're going to meet is. When these commissioners appeared before Osoro and his committee, they requested that, number 1, they would want sufficient details as to what exactly they are charged with. Those petitioners who appeared before, and I happened to watch those proceedings, were totally lost. They didn't know what was going on. In fact, but when the commissioners and the advocates were raising the preliminary objections, there was a right of reply for the petitioners. But that guy didn't even know what was going on. In fact, it was a member of the committee who prodded them and said, if you don't speak now, if we retreat and make a decision on the preliminary objection, you will not have opportunity to speak, which tells you that these people are being carried. There is a darker, sinister hand that is directing these proceedings that Osoro does not want to reveal.
Which is that then the...
It is, you know, I am not shy.
Okay.
I am not shy.
Okay.
Given the tweet from the president,
yes,
given the fact that they felt aggrieved by the conduct of these commissioners, and that conduct has not met that threshold, I can assure you that this thing is being directed by none other than the president himself, William Samoei Ruto. And for him to pretend here that, oh, the president does not issue any directions, I can tell you I have made colleagues in parliament, because Osoro, I wish you understand that if we do not act right, you see, the way we came together as members of parliament from across the political divide to stop the importation of maize, it is because it is the right thing to do. I can assure you, Osoro, that once you violate this constitution and set that particular precedent, the next time the shoe is going to be on the other foot. And it is very heartbreaking, because this is a government that said that when they come to power, all politically instigated investigations, witch hunts and so on and so forth, and prosecutions would come to an end. They told us that freedom is here. Ayub, if you can deny somebody the right to see the evidence that they are going to be confronted with, these people who filed these petitions did not even attach affidavits to say, this is what I am talking about, this is what they did, and this is what constitutes gross violation of the Constitution. You deny somebody the right to face his accuser, to be able to cross-examine them. This is such an egregious violation of the Constitution. And I think, having been a member of the Law Society of Kenya Council,
yes,
the LSK should censure its members on this committee, starting with Osoro,
okay,
and for bringing dishonor to the profession.
Yes, he has the right of reply here. Yes, Honorable Osoro. Go ahead, please.
You know, the guilty are always on the run, even when no one is after them. And I think what Senator Sifuna is actually doing is running. Like, I mean, really, why do you make a presumption that the committee has already resolved to have, you know, to hold the grounds as petition? Mm-hmm. I mean, really, why do you make that presumption? The report is not in the floor of the House yet. As I said, our responsibility is merely to investigate. When he says, when he quotes the Constitution, and he clearly says that, you know, we've got to protect the Constitution. You see, the Constitution is not only protected to the extent of where Azimio or you yourself feel that, you know, I protect the Constitution because I am actually the right one. Where do you place the petitioner, who is also using that very Constitution under Article 251 to bring the petition? Now, these are the details on fair hearing as provided for under Article 50 and stuff like that, and, you know, all those other things. Those are extreme details.
Those are not details.
Where do you also place our standing order which provides that we investigate within 14 days and report to the House. We only have 14 days. In fact, standing order, I think standing order number 220 is also very certain on admissibility of petitions, that upon receipt of a petition from a petitioner, the clerk must approve whether it has sufficient grounds to be investigated, then give it to this relevant committee. And that is why it was given to us. But let me say this. We do not need to preempt the outcome of this whole thing, because we simply investigated. Why is Sifuna imagining that we've already found these people, you know, liable of what the grounds as placed in the petition? I mean, as pleaded. I mean, there is a possibility that we'll, of course, overrule the petitioners.
The president has said it.
Imaginary. We do not work under the instructions of the president, and this should come out clear.
Okay, thank you. I mean, totally, this is an independent house and an independent committee undertaking hearings. And Governor, let me come to you on this, because you earlier on mentioned this very pertinent point, and it's all this is in regard to how we conduct our elections, and often the clouds of uncertainty that hung over the poll commissions ever since 2013, when the first elections were held under the current constitutional dispensation. The Kriegler Commission, for example, cited in the aftermath of the elections in its report the lack of independence and the capacity resulting from the organizational structure and the composition of the then ECK, which was chaired by the late Samuel Kivitu. And thereafter we formed the IEBC, we went into the constitutional referendum, then the elections in 2013. Going forward then, again, this matter seems to be coming up. We had it in 2017, the Kiraitu and the James Orengo Committee before the elections in August 2017. In 2016, we had the tear gas Tuesdays, Machozi Mondays to eject the then commission chaired by Hassan Isaac. Going forward, how can we structure our electoral body very properly in the sense that it carries with it in the trust and the responsibility bestowed upon it?
Because I think there's a very important point that we are not debating, even as we have this interchange between ourselves, and especially between the two members of parliament. And the point that I think we are failing to address is to the question of individual or personal responsibility to the office they have been appointed to hold. That must be key, because we must say loudly to every person that once they have lifted that Bible and taken oath to run the affairs of their office dispassionately, independently, without fear, without favor, then they must live true to that oath. And no matter how we clad and decorate the commission or any other commission, but the people who get in there are somehow persuaded by other interests that they can forego that responsibility, then we'll still have the same problem. And that is why I would be saying to all this, even as we discuss about the process of parliament, what is likely to happen, and they do that. But individually, Abdikadir, as the professional you are today, if you are advised to sit where you are sitting and pick that microphone that you have and announce something that will put this country into chaos, and it is being done for a certain reason, you will not do it as a professional. You will say no.
Of course I won't.
You won't. And this is the problem, because you find that we appoint individuals to offices, but they still have the guts to go and sit somewhere in some side meetings and agree and to some calling that why don't you go and do this and this and that so that we can have this result. I want to say to our professionals, to people who get this opportunity, you must remember, and that is why with a lot of reservation, I would say, I don't think it is out of cue to ask those individuals, for example, the 4, to come to the House and answer to that specific question. How did they conduct themselves, being individuals who took oath to serve this republic independently, dispassionately, without fear, without favor? How did they conduct themselves? At least to that question, they must face the country and say at the time that it was critical to determine, and given that power that they had, what did they do? Did they act right or didn't they act right? And that can be a precedent. I said here last time, Abdikadi, that this may look like a contestation between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. It is not. It is not. In the next election cycle, you are going to be having new individuals in those offices. When you have Kenya Kwanza and Azimio and another coalition, what will those individuals do by precedent of what the current ones have done? And so let us not shed tears over what we know the law requires us to do. Okay. Let those individuals stand there. Let them be given an opportunity. Let them say for this reason and that reason we did this, we did that, and they'll be told this was right, this was wrong. And I want to persuade my two colleagues here. The house they sit in is a hallowed house, the House of Parliament. That is the house that gives direction to how even all those commissions and people will behave themselves and conduct themselves and respect the law where they make the law.
Okay, and it's only where Silvanus Osoro sits the house that can impeach.
Yeah, now yes, you see, Governor, we are not saying that, in fact, people can get into offices and not misbehave. I think it is human nature that sometimes people are. But you see, this constitution is the one that sets out what you do in the event that people violate their constitution or their oath. And there is a procedure. All we are saying, for instance, when you say they have to come to answer the question, what is the question? What is the question? These guys are asking for details of the question. Why are you summoning me? What is this conduct that you perceive has met this threshold of gross misconduct for me to come and answer? What is your evidence? What is the evidence I'm coming to interact with? Who are my accusers? What are they saying? Where was I on certain date when they say you are on Citizen TV today in the morning? Can I see the clips? Was I there? You see, these are questions of fact that need to be, sorted out. Number two, these things that Osoro calls details. Osoro, this is a document you know. These are not suggestions. These are not stories in here. This is a document you know. You know what it means when they say they're provided for a right to fair trial. It is not details. What we are saying is we can gauge with some level of certainty where this thing is going, given the behavior of the committee, the way they have handled the petitioners, the pronouncement by the head of state. I can bet here. And I don't know who can take this bet. Okay. Because when the report is going, I can see your cameraman volunteering to take the bet. I can assure you that this committee is going to indict these 4 people. When he talks about the standing orders, just let me finish. The standing orders, Osoro knows, are subservient to the Constitution. He knows it. So he's just here pretending. And number two, those same, standing orders provide that a petition, one petition, should be dispensed within 14 days. You have 4 petitions, Osoro. Okay. You want people to meet a case of over 50 days in 14 days, and you don't want to grant them even time for them to be able to prepare. Okay, Senator,
because you mentioned certainty, and it's important that I hold you to account and query, because it's a matter of factual. You talked about in defense of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And you cited the President, for example, because here I have petitions filed by Reverend Dennis Nthumbi, the Republican Party, Geoffrey Langat, or Steve Gary, seeking the removal of the commissioners, not the President, and you have no evidence to that effect.
What evidence do you need? He tweeted it on his official Twitter handle.
A tweet is not evidence.
What do you mean it's not evidence, my brother? Let me tell you. You want me to open his Twitter feed now? I'll do it. I'll do it live on TV. I mean, this is the evidence you need, my brother.
As a lawyer.
The law, the law recognizes digital communication.
Yes, hang on.
Digital communication. These days, I can even serve you papers on WhatsApp.
You made your case.
The things that I say on my official Facebook pages are evidence, my brother. This is me speaking.
You made your point.
Yes.
I mean, let's have clarity here.
Yes.
And at the best interest of time. Here are 4 petitions.
Yes.
And you talked about the President.
Yes.
With no evidence that his hand is steering this process.
This is the hand. I want to show you the hand. Allow me to show you the hand.
How is Twitter hand?
It's even called a handle. It has a hand in it. Let me show you. Let me show you what he said. I'm telling you, my brother, let us not try and be clever. The truth of the matter is, this is William Ruto's official account. If it was not his official account, you'd be saying something. These days, you communicate through many means, you know.
and Honorable Sifuna, Senator, it's about being factual. I mean,
yes.
I'm seated here to steer communication.
So can we go fact by fact?
Okay, yes.
Let's go fact by fact. Does William Ruto have a Twitter account?
At the best interest of time.
That's a fact.
Okay, at the best interest of time, this is not a legal courtroom to prosecute that matter, but there are petitions filed and not the president who had filed them. There are 4 petitioners: Dennis Nthumbi, the Republican Party, Geoffrey Lagat, and Howard Steve Gary. Yes, Honorable Sora.
Number one, even in that very tweet that Honorable Sifuna is alluded to, the president said that let Parliament do its work. I mean, really, why doesn't he quote his party leader, Raila Odinga? Was he directing his members to behave in certain way as they did? Because they walked out in the during the first sitting. I mean, really, why is he not castigating him?
No, that's your job.
Are they in the floor of the House, or rather, did they sit to follow the proceedings of the committee?
I cannot do your job
without work. You know, Raila Odinga came in as a member of the public to listen to the petitions. Then he walked out with his members. Where do you place that? I mean, is that what you call fair hearing? Can't I call that intimidation to his members? Was it not a predetermined setup that he came to defend his people? Didn't they have their lawyers? But the president did come. He expressed himself and said, stop intimidating members of parliament.
That's what he said.
Let them do their work. I mean, when you define the whole thing, that is what he meant. He said, let the process proceed. I mean, let the process take its own shape. What Sifuna is saying is that it is prerogative for them to make statements on what happens in committees, but not the president or any Kenyan. I mean, really.
Thank you.
That to them, they are right. But again, let me say this. Okay. The process is never conclusive in the floor of the House. It is a process. You feel that we already, you know, we have a preset mind. You have an opportunity, of course, to defend yourself in the tribunal if the committee rules otherwise. But that presumption is wrong. We may not rule otherwise. By the way, we are 15 members in that committee. And we've got to adapt the report, write the report. We've got dissenting voices. Then we take a vote. Why is Sifuna assuming that whatever is good? By the way, we haven't even finished writing the report.
Okay.
Can you
not even made the conclusion?
Can you take our bet, please?
Order.
I want to bet my government Fuliza limit of 50,000 shillings.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to bet my government Fuliza limit.
I'll come to you.
Take my money.
Have some order. Sip some tea. Yes, Governor, I'll come to you. Then clearly, Governor Matangi, you can see the...
You know, Abdikadir.
Yes, you can see the level of political interest in it. Yes, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think... I think that's not the direction, in my view. We are misinterpreting a lot of things, even in the discussion. One, you know, to my brothers, and especially my brother Sifuna, you know, there's a clear distinction between the processes of parliament and the processes of a courtroom or a court. And in prosecution of the same matter, the processes in a court of law are very different. If there is a petition filed against you in Parliament, what Parliament is supposed to do is to invite you to Parliament to come, and then when you are inside Parliament, sitting in the sitting of that committee that has invited you, then the allegations, the charges, the petition is served upon you then, and you hear and you listen, and the committee prosecutes the matter. Unlike a court process, whereby if you have been accused, then you are supposed to be sent papers, served in advance, go, you study them, make a reply, and file an affidavit, and then you come and defend yourself. Those are two distinct processes. So, to the extent that the argument that my brother Sifuna makes here is that the 4 individuals first want to understand, before they have appeared, that what is in that petition, what are used, who is accusing us. Those details are not prosecuted in that matter in a parliamentary process. Number 2, even if there was fear that this was going to be the outcome, and I will call it fear, the constitution of that committee includes all members of the House from all, and that is by a requirement of the standing order. That if you have 9 members, 4 of them will be from the minority side. 5 of them will be from the majority. So you still don't have a set team there that is intended to come and hog those individuals. You'll have a balanced debate because even those political interests are included there. Lastly, Abdi Khalid, it is also a fact of principle and law that once you become elected president or a deputy president or in a position, that does not mean that you cease to hold an opinion or to hold a view. And you are not bad to express your views or your opinion on any matter. The question that we are having, irrespective of whatever the president may have tweeted, that is his view. It is his opinion. He has a right to express it. But what does the process of law within the House of Parliament, which is controlled by the members of Parliament, not by the president, how do they process, execute that mandate that they have themselves to make that determination? That is the main question. The
independence we have all underscored. Yes, Senator Sifuna.
Can I just say something on what the governor is saying? Because Article 50 does not talk only about court processes. And I want to read it for him. It says that every person has the right to have any dispute that can be resolved by application of the law decided in a fair public hearing before a court or, if appropriate, another independent and impartial tribunal or body. Parliament is such a body, and this is a matter, a dispute that is supposed to be resolved, the petition is supposed to be resolved by application of the law. Do these people have a right to know what they are coming to be confronted with prior to them arriving? Yes, that is a constitutional right. In fact, it is why the clerk of the National Assembly, upon receipt of these petitions, send the petitions to these people to tell them, prepare, you are coming to have an appearance before. But the petitioners found that the material that was presented before them was sufficient, and they highlighted the deficiencies in those materials. What Parliament needed to do is to ask the petitioners to be able to present that material. I need to know what your allegation is. If you send me a letter with nebulous allegations like now, you were framing a question to say, come and tell us how you conducted yourselves and whether it was proper. That is not the basis of an investigation. Then you say that the president has a right to hold his view, and I'm happy you've said that, because I could see that our host today was trying to distance the president from his own tweet. So I agree that the president has a view. It is his view to express himself on these matters. But when you say a matter is live before Parliament, even in Parliament, we are precluded from discussing matters that are before a court of law because of the sub judice rule. Now, if you are saying that Parliament is an independent institution, it's conducting its processes, we then all have to respect that process to allow the members to be able to interact with the evidence and to be able to reach a conclusion. But when you say, as a head of state, that this matter is live, but you have concluded that these people are rogue officials,
thank you.
You have already condemned them. You have already said that they subverted the democratic will of the people. Yet, whether they subverted the democratic will of the people is precisely the question before the House of Parliament.
Thank you.
That means that you are interfering. That is the hand you are looking for.
Thank you, Senator. And to be clear,
I think it's important also.
Allow me to sample some feedback. MP. I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to that. Let's see what you're saying on the Twitter handle at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Daybreak. Here we go. Mtetezi Mzima Masese says, if the Hustlers Fund is already operational without supplementary budget, it could mean someone is doing business with Kenyans. Where did the money come from? Reverend Harry _Kosgei says, Hustler Fund is meant to uplift many small-scale traders. Thus, I borrowed and I qualified and I was given 1 month to pay and 5% of my savings. I love this. Happy New Month. God bless you all and the entire All Media staff. Okay, interesting. PK Mwinde says, Edwin Sifuna, Twiga Foods has a farmer contracting model. They are meant to be an administrator, just like the banks, to allow its contracted farmers to borrow through them. Godwin Wanjala 12 says, Shiloh give out 1,000 Kenya shillings and start collecting 220 each evening for 5 days. That is to say, you pay an interest of 100. Hustler, you take 1,000, you pay 2 shillings and 50 cents after 2 weeks. Just bite what you can swallow. It's better 1,000,000 times to the real hustlers. Engineer Lazaro says process for removal of Cherera 4 biased and sounds like serious witch hunt. People like Honorable Soro are just in the process of putting the IEBC under state captivity. Someone is busy building his 2027 election team. Alex Wanyanarwe says to Mama Mboga, the 500 Hustler Fund limit will at least boost her stock after consistently paying back, and her limit is increased maybe to 1,500. Her stock will triple. Up next is COT and Group KE. The growth of the nation is gauged by how many percentages of those at the bottom of the social ladder are empowered. The Hustler Fund is a good initiative, but it lacks a strong foundation on which borrowing should be premised. Digital Talk Media KE says the Hustler Fund needs fine-tuning that will greatly boost growth through informed financial borrowing by the hustlers. The government must keenly follow the success of this initiative going forward. LJ Sindani says the petition against the 4 commissioners of the IEBC is a priori, given that President, who is supposed to constitute a tribunal to investigate them, has already declared them rogue. From the Supreme Court ruling, all the commissioners must be probed. Okelo Mwalimu says ongoing public persecution of the Cherera 4 in caveats is as distasteful as it is uncouth. It's likely to have negative impact on running of public offices. Going forward, all constitutional offices are likely to have yes men or women who would fear journeying the Golgotha route. Engineer Lazaro says, Honorable Soro, one political organization can't purport to be in the process of building credible election body alone. The removal of the commissioners or building a new IEBC needs all the parties and the auspice of the Inter-Parliamentary Caucus. And those are the feedback, some of the feedback on Twitter that we managed to sample. Yes, Honorable Soro, briefly, because we are running out of time.
Briefly on
it's 8 on the dot, and then I'll come to Governor Matangi.
Exactly, because Senator Sifuna has said that once a petition is received by the clerk, he sends it to the respondents in question. Was that done with this particular petition? Yes, it was done. Then upon receipt, he of course quoted Article 50 on fair administration and fair hearing and stuff like that. But you see, Article 250 does not define what fair timeline means. It does not define that fair timeline specifically should be 14 days, 10 days, or 20 days. It allows now the regulations or the legislation to determine that, or the practice by the courts.
Okay.
This is, the committee sittings are quasi-judicial.
Thank you.
They work within set timelines as provided for in the standing orders.
Thank you.
If they were provided for, yes. Were they provided for the petitions? Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Sir.
Why then do you send your questions and say, fine, you place the questions in the petition, but I need to know another question? I mean, it's simple investigation.
Thank you, Honorable Soro. Yes, Governor Kimani Wamatangi.
Well, I think my final comment will be that gauging from the feedback, it's evident the amount of feedback on the Hustler Fund speaks to the interest that that people have taken on this fund, and I want to agree with one of the respondents there that this is an initiative that has just been launched. The greater learning is going to happen as it is implemented, and I want to urge all those that have been given that responsibility that moving forward, we learn from the lessons we are going to go through as it is implemented, and make this the real savior of those that cannot afford the kind of credits that ordinarily an entrepreneuring Kenyan should be able to access. And I believe probably by next year, we'll be speaking of a very different story, and find a huge number of our people fully empowered and new to take on nation building.
Thank you, Governor. Yes, Senator. Final word.
Yeah, I want to reiterate here that the process for the removal of these 4 commissioners is a foregone conclusion. And I have said I am willing to bet that, in fact, this committee is going to table a report indicting these 4 commissioners, and Osoro here knows it is just being coy and very unfair to your viewers this morning. Number 2, It is about the 2027 election. I can assure you, it is about having a pliant election body. It is about making sure that there will no longer be elections conducted in this country. It will just be a selection. Who is going to be governor of Kiambu? Is he somebody who we can work with? Is he friendly? Who is going to be the senator of Nairobi? And it will affect all of us who believe in the democratic processes. So we will remember this day, and we will know who stood with us and who did not. Lastly, when you talk about this hustler fund, you know, the first few steps that you take on a journey determine the direction you're going to take. If you take the wrong turn at the beginning of your journey, you are totally lost. I can assure Kenyans, and I have encouraged them, take this money, nobody's going to come.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Your time is all appreciated. Governor Kimani Wamatangi, the Governor of Kiambu County, thank you for your time.
Final remarks.
That was your final remark.
Can I, 20 seconds,
30
please.
seconds. Number one, we promised, Kenya Kwanza government promised, it's delivering. Put your trust in Kenya Kwanza government. We've started with the right trajectory. Take these funds, pay, improve your credit rating.
Thank you.
And grow your business.
Okay, the beauty about democracy is that it's people-centered, people-driven, and the mandate sourced from the people. Governor Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu County Governor, thank you for your time. Always appreciated. Senator Edwin Sifuna as well. Doubles up as the ODM Party Secretary General. Thank you for your time and company. And to South Mugirango Member of Parliament, Silvana Sosoro, who also doubles up as the Majority Whip in the National Assembly. Thank you for your time and company, gentlemen. All appreciated. And hopefully we do this again next week by the grace of God. And thank you to you too for watching the broadcast and waking up with Daybreak on Citizen Television. The hashtag on Twitter was Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, and at Ayub Abdikadir Willis is up next. And I'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast. Good morning.